How does Monsters Inc. fit into Tomorrowland?
This is what I wanted to bring up.
Turtle Talk's going back 20 years now.
Wow, is it really that
20
old?
years.
That's
2004
crazy.
it opened.
They have to do a fairly spot-on impression of Crush.
So what I like specifically about Laugh Floor is that it fits in with the movie.
These things will hold up for as long as those Pixar films look good, and like people are still watching Toy Story.
This podcast was brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 10 of Diz or That, a Disney Debate podcast. My name is Justin.
Oh, and that is my cue. I am Chris, as always, and we're here with another fun debate today.
Another fun debate, the happiest debate on Earth. This week, we're talking not rides at the parks. We're not talking about Star Wars this week, unfortunately. We're not talking about DComs or any sort of Disney movies, in theory. We're going to be talking about two show experiences, two very unique show experiences that you can have at the Disney theme parks. We're talking Turtle Talk with Crush and Monsters Laugh Floor. Christopher, which one of these two are you taking? You took Finding Nemo beforehand. Are you taking Turtle Talk, or are we going with Monsters Inc. this time?
I'm going with Monsters Inc. this time.
Monsters
I think
Inc.
I think it's more of a solid experience. I like it more. I think it's funny. I think there's a lot of fun aspects of the experience itself, and I think it's if you have time, it's a must do. But it'd be amiss if I didn't say that these are two very similar experiences.
They are. They use the same sort of technology.
Same technology.
It's almost some sort of, it must be running off video game engine of some sort, but like CGI characters that are controllable and are operated by humans that are actually talking and speaking. So it's sort of it's a unique way to bring animated characters to life. I've never seen anything quite like this other than these two attractions.
It is cool, and I will also say that I'm with you. I don't really think besides these two we've seen this done much else, which is a little surprising based on the fact that there are so many animated characters in the Disney universe. That majority of Disney is known for animation. And we don't have this experience where you can interact with other characters, surprisingly.
Yeah.
You think it would happen. I mean, these are both pretty old experiences, pretty old rides.
They're not super new. Yeah, that's for sure.
Turtle Talk's going back 20 years now.
Wow, is it really that
20
old?
years.
That's
2004
crazy.
it opened. So this has been around for a long time. It is.
Nuts.
I think we see a lot more of it now in social media than ever before, which is why it doesn't feel as old. But
yeah, I just think they both hold up really, really well. Like they don't feel like they're from
surprisingly
an earlier era.
Surprisingly so. Yeah,
they match the animation quality of their films very, very perfectly. And I mean, that's probably to the benefit of that. If you can get these sort of digital puppets to be like on par with these films, these Pixar films, these things will hold up for as long as those Pixar films look good. And like, people are still watching Toy Story. So, there's nobody's turning their head at any of these Pixar films. Very, very unique. Like you said, I am shocked that they haven't implemented this more, even if it's just for Pixar. I don't know if this is any sort of like Pixar Studios helped develop this technology, because these are two Pixar properties, but I could see this working for almost anything, right? Like, but an interactive experience with Maui. I don't know. Like you could do any with Olaf.
You could do it.
Anything.
You could do it. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's so many animated properties that Disney has that you really could do with anything, and you could, I'm sure, do it 10 times better nowadays too. I mean, if you're using 2024 technology and what's available today, you can probably do some pretty cool stuff. So it's surprising.
I would be willing to bet that you could even diverge from animation and do like something closer to live action. I could see them doing a Marvel experience or a Star Wars experience with sort of similar technology. I don't see why this hasn't been implemented like park wide. It makes sense.
It does make sense, especially with Disney being about the experiences, right? It's about the experiences that you're having. Yeah, and Universal, I don't think has any of this technology, which I
Yeah, I
feel
don't
like
think anybody else
fits their
is
parks
touching
pretty
this.
well too. So
Yeah,
it's interesting, but it's done really well. It's old, but it's done well. Monsters Inc. Is a little bit newer. That was 2007 that
okay.
was developed, but they're still pretty old. I mean, that's pushing almost 20 years.
It's quite a while.
So it's been around for a while. It's not new, but it still is a good experience, and
It feels fairly fresh. Yeah,
and I think that is partially due to the fact that you're getting a different experience every time.
more or less. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that a touch. I was just like, man, what would a interactive experience be like at Universal? Like, what are they going to do? The Minions? That would be atrocious.
That's the obvious answer, and this is the second week in a row that Minions has been.
We're
brought
talking
up.
Minions again. Yeah. I just like what other property. I mean, I'm sure we could figure out some other properties. You could
gotta
probably do
watch
something
Minions
with, like,
now. You've said it twice.
I do.
It's on your brain. Yeah, Minions on the brain.
Could you imagine though an interactive experience with the Minions and just how not fun that would be? They're not built for that, I don't think. But I'm sure they could figure out something. It would be cool. Do they have the rights to like Scooby Doo? Do they have like those rights? Isn't there a Mystery Machine at Universal or something like that?
Yeah,
like,
they
that
do.
could be interesting if you like got some people to do Scooby Doo voices. I'd be down for something like that, but
And that would be fairly doable. I mean, that's
I think so.
those are voices I think you could probably figure out pretty easily.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do they have like the rights to South Park? They're a little more of an adult oriented park. We could do something like that. That would be wild. You could have unfiltered people doing those voices. That would be amazing.
So I think why these two work well, and I think sure you could do it, but you have to have a reason to do it, right? You have to have a reason to interact with the characters. For a lot of other things, you said Marvel, I could see that being like talking to Tony Stark or something, and
yeah,
that could be fun. But these two are both, somewhat. I mean, one is obviously a comedy show, and the other one though brings a lot of comedic elements to it to make it what it is. I mean, that's where all the clips you're seeing coming out on social media, they're all funny things that are happening.
Yes. Yeah, I was literally just watching a compilation of all of the funny moments from different Turtle Talks. Like, that's how I prepped for this. I watched a bunch of Turtle Talk, but like so many compilations. It's so good. It's so funny.
And what I also want to point here, and this is for both, but this requires some pretty incredible acting. This is no joke. I mean, these guys have to come up kind of on the spot. And I get, with the Monsters Inc. to some extent, you can do some of the same things, but still, I mean, it requires a lot of kind of on the fly thinking, quick thinking.
Definitely,
it's not easy to be funny unless you are a comedian.
No.
So
no,
it's pretty good.
Definitely, you get that vibe that like, depending, like, no matter what the jokes are being said at Laugh Floor, each one of them have that, like, the voice actors have that performance experience of like, I don't know if they're actually all stand-up comics, but they have stood on a stage and spoke jokes at people before. Like, you get that vibe.
They know what they're
feel.
doing.
It feels very
they know
authentic.
what they're doing. It's Disney. They're not going to be hiring a guy off the street to come do this job.
Do something that level. Yeah, it is quite impressive. Definitely a lot to go into with that. A couple of my points, and we'll break them up and we'll talk them throughout the episode. But one thing just to kind of start us off, one of the big things that I think is really impressive as far as actors go is with Turtle Talk, in the fact that they have to do a fairly spot on impression of Crush, to where my only downside really of Monsters Inc. is that we don't get a lot of actual Monsters characters that are voiced live. You get them, but they're all pre-recorded, pre-taped. All the other characters, I don't believe, are in any of the actual films or movies. Pretty sure they're all developed for the actual show.
The show. Yeah, you're right. And whereas Crush does need to be,
he has to be accurate to the films. Yeah,
for sure. And that's not an easy thing. And I think initially when they opened it up, from what I read, there were only 2 different people that were doing it at that time.
Do it. Yeah.
So there was, I mean, that didn't make it easy for them. I'm sure they were working nonstop.
That's a lot. Unless you're restricting your show times, that's
a lot. It's a lot of talking all day.
Yeah, those performances aren't quick. I was like, oh yeah, I'll zing through a bunch of Laugh Floor and a bunch of Turtle Talk, and it's like they're almost like 20-30 minute a piece. Like they're long, dude. These take shows a while. I mean, quick.
I think Turtle Talk as a whole is, an 18-minute experience from seating to leaving, with 10-minute of the kind of show aspect. So it does take a while, right? But they both do take a while. I mean, they're both kind of commitments. Yeah. They're both also really nice on a super hot day to cool off.
Oh, baby, right? You get to sit down. You get to be in a dark room, air conditioning. Ooh,
and it's a little bit more than just going to the Hall of Presidents, or going to sit down in just like, a building.
I would say the closest thing that we have to this or to either of these is probably Muppet Vision. Muppet Vision kind of gets close because it has some like real life elements. You have I forget the character's name that actually runs in the Muppets. He's in full costume, but you have like a real life Muppet sort of in the world. This is as close as we've ever got.
Yeah, it's kind of blending real life and digital yeah.
So it's as close as we've ever gotten. And
but there's not a lot of that real life.
No.
Part that you don't get anymore. Like we were talking a couple weeks ago about Great Movie Ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made it so engaging and interesting.
Is having the actual like actors.
They have live actors there, and that makes it interesting. It makes it fun and adds more to it than just a completely pre-recorded experience that this is exactly what you're getting every single time.
It's really why like Jungle Cruise is such a great experience, because it's a live skipper like doing
I think it's the same exact situation. It's when you add in that human element to it, it makes it that much more special. And I think that's why both these experiences are what they are.
Yeah, it's definitely hard when you're coming at it from Laugh Floor. I understand why they have to do it. It would be tough to have a Mike Wazowski impersonator at every single one of these shows, to have a Roz impersonator. I forget if there's any other characters that pop up that are actually in the actual films. It would be hard to have somebody be that spot on and not have it be noticeable. Billy Crystal, just how can you mimic that voice? That's really, really tough. Even like, it's like how it makes much more sense to pre-record it. I think that it's really, really neat that Crush is live through and through. He has a few pre-recorded characters in that show, but Crush himself.
I mean, you're also going to get a few different characters in Turtle Talk that come around, right? Like
yes,
Dory, and
you have Dory
and the whale shark,
the whale shark, and the octopus guy,
Hank. Yeah, so you do have a few that are pre-recorded still coming in, and I mean, for the same thing. But I don't know if you really want a title character like Mike Wazowski, because Crush, like, what he sounds like, but it's also a voice that you could see someone recreating. It's kind
of mimicable.
It's like, mimicable, and it's also he's a character in the film, but he's not like the star.
It's not Ellen DeGeneres or any of the other main characters where like you're spending the entire film with them, so you really have those voices ingrained in your head.
You could not do that with. It's not Fish Talk with Dory for a reason, right?
Wouldn't that be hilarious if they did? They probably like blue skied an experience with Dory where every 5 minutes she just forgets that she's doing a show and it just starts over, and it's just continuously on a loop every 5 minutes.
Well, there's another reason why you can't do it, but you can't take your main stars and try to make it, because those voices are the voices of them are so iconic that you really can't mess with that. Otherwise, it's going to sound off. If you have a Mike Wazowski impersonator, it's going to sound off. If you have a Crush impersonator, you're like, oh, I guess that's what he sounded like. But I don't.
It's really interesting to watch the compilations. I don't know if you watched any of the compilations of like Turtle Talk, but it goes from one guy to another guy to another guy to another guy, and it's like it's very different. But
there are a lot of differences.
Yeah, it's so each one of them are so different, and when you kind of like put them back to back to back, like I get it. It's definitely noticeable. But the cool part is just with his like surfer dude kind of talk, as long as it's in the ballpark and you go there and you didn't just watch the film, you're not going to know. Like it's totally
That's
fine.
exactly,
it's totally
yeah,
acceptable.
exactly the point that I'm making, which is why
Yeah.
I do appreciate having that. In Laugh Lore, you get the little fan service of having Mike Wazowski there, having Roz there,
Sure.
do their little jokes. What I like specifically about Laugh Lore is that it fits in with the movie.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to the movie. They're all about using laughs instead of, at the end of Monsters Inc. They switched to using laughs instead of screams. Right? And that makes sense. Now they have a comedy show that they harvest laughs from, which I think is fun. It's part of the movie. It makes sense to the movie. Whereas in Turtle Talk, there's no rhyme or reason that Crush is coming down to talk to you.
He wants to learn more about humans.
He wants to learn, sure.
It's Epcot, and it's also a play on just like the whole pavilion, and we'll talk about the pavilion in a sec, but it's the whole pavilion of like you're learning about the fish world.
Yeah,
it's an educational
it does
experience.
fit with the Epcot, and you couldn't have Laugh Lore at Epcot.
It also doesn't make like you can't really have Laugh Lore at Epcot. I mean, you kind of could. It's kind of fair game with Epcot right now, anyway. But like, I get it. It does fit, like that fits the Epcot aesthetic where Monsters Inc. doesn't. The thing with Monsters Inc. though is like it fits in the story narratively from that aspect of like they're harvesting laughs. So a comedy show makes sense, but it's also like it's a bunch of humans in the monsters world. Are we just letting people in now? Because before it was a giant deal. It was catastrophic. It was world ending to have a human in the monster world.
I don't think they care as much towards the end of the movie. I think it is a lot
granted,
more.
There's not a Monsters 3 and there's not we don't know what's happening after.
We
but
don't
like,
know.
I still think
we can't speak on that.
I still think they want some separation between the humans and the monsters. I don't think they're just letting them into the monster world just yet.
Maybe. But
Monsters Inc. 3 is going to get announced in like 2 days, and we're going to get a story treatment, and it's going to be like Boo is living in the monster world. And I'm gonna lose that point.
It is purely hypothetical, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. But I think it also fits with that they are more accepting. They're happier. They're more open to new experiences, right?
Yeah, I get it. That does work, and it also is a fun play on the like. Not that too many comedy shows do it. I feel like they do it more in movies where it's like a laugh-o-meter kind of a thing, like. Who gets the biggest laughs, and then they're going to win. And it's kind of like it's a play on that trope. It's interesting. I like it. It's funny. Roz coming out making the joke of like, we got to get enough power or the door that won't be able to open. Like, that's cute. That's fun. That's fun.
It's a fun show. It's a fun show. I think there's a lot of fun aspects of the show. I like that you can text jokes. That's a good thing for the queue. Right?
Okay, yeah. Explain that, because it's been a bit since I've been on there. I don't know if that's always been a feature that's in there, but I definitely didn't take a part of that in the last queue, time I did it.
So they don't use a lot. They use, I think, like a couple jokes that are sent to them.
Okay.
But in the queue, it's like text jokes to this number, and they might show up in the show. I think that's a really fun way to make the queue more inviting, more opening.
Definitely helps the queue.
Because then everyone's talking. You're talking with your family, your friends. You're thinking about a joke to send, right?
Do you send one in every time you go? How many jokes have you sent in?
I have sent in 0 jokes myself.
Okay, we gotta change that.
But when in the last few times I've went, and especially on this, it's been with a small child, a 4-year-old child, who does write the jokes. So
okay,
that's been fun.
Enough.
And again, it makes the queue more enjoyable for that reason, because you're talking, you're interacting with each other, about jokes, and so you're kind of getting yourself kind of in the mood for the show before the show.
Sure.
And not that and we're not going to say the jokes in this show are groundbreaking. This is not Mark Norman comedy show. It's
not highbrow comedy. It's family friendly.
It's goofy. It's funny. But it does get a lot of laughs, and there are some specific really funny things that do happen. I think one like thing that they do a lot is when they'll talk about they'll say something they heard from an audience member that is way off base, and they make a joke on that. So they play with the audience the entire time, obviously.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part is obviously that guy.
That guy. Yeah.
That guy is, because it's if you're that guy, it's awful. Right?
Yeah, that's I wasn't there. One of the trips that my family went to Disney, and I was like, back at college, my father got that guy.
Was he
and,
really?
You know my dad, and it's like spot on, perfect, man. Like,
He did not want to be that guy.
I'm sure he played along. I'm sure he was fine with it. But like the onset of finding the guy that probably looks a little grumpy in the crowd, like
some people hate it. You see a bunch of different reactions from that guy, but
yeah,
it's always funny because they go back to it so much in the show that it gets a big laugh every time that happens.
It's very similar to the Rebel Spy thing that happens in Star Tours, where it's kind of like that one seat. But what I don't know is, do they pick the same seat every time, or do they move it around?
They do move it around.
Because that's a pretty big theater. That's not like a small theater. Like if you have like a Star Tours sort of ride, you can pretty much just like hard cam to one seat and then that's it. You're done. You're good. Because they can make sure that you sit in that seat. But like that Monsters theater is very big.
It's big. It's 400 person, I believe, that it fits.
That's nuts.
Which it is a lot. It is a lot.
Have you ever been in there when there's that many people? I don't like.
I think it fills up pretty. Yeah, every time I think it fills up. If I'm not, I think it's 400, and obviously Turtle Talk is a much smaller scale.
Oh yeah,
but it's supposed to be. It fits the vibe, right? It's an intimate conversation with the sea turtle.
That was one of my points that I wanted to bring up, was the intimate aspect of it. You know, it's it makes sense for your attraction to be as big as it is, and I think it helps it to have a larger crew, because it does get bigger laughs. It gets more laughs if you have just a few. Like, the only downside that I see to the Turtle Talk thing in the intimate experience is the fact that when a joke doesn't land, it does not land, and it is crickets in that little tiny room. And I feel so bad for the cast members, like just trying to like make that work, because like, ooh, the whole room, like everybody's smiling, probably enjoyed the joke, but like if you don't have a verbal audience sort of laughter,
it's a awkward situation.
It hurts,
right?
Yeah, it really, really hurts. Where like Laugh Floor, if you have even half that place filled up, if you have 200 people laughing, that's a lot of laughter.
Someone's going to be laughing, right? Someone's going to be laughing.
Every joke.
You always hear kids just screaming at the craziest things in that. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I guess you don't have the awkward silence in that show necessarily.
Yes,
you're not going to get that.
That's kind of the bit of Laugh Floor. The intimate experience, though, I think it does aid itself to the sort of overall narrative that they're going for with Turtle Talk, but it does provide a really cool experience when it works, when it hits. The first time I ever stumbled into Turtle Talk, like, we were just trying to have a quiet, sit-down, air-conditioned experience after going on the Nemo ride. Didn't think much of it. That was one of the greatest experiences I've had at Disney. Like, it's fun and so fun. It hits, and it's so cool, so intimate and small, and that there are actual conversations that are happening between Crush and the kids, Crush and the audience members. Like, that is really the heart and soul of like why I think
your
this
show
attraction is
variation, can be very much. But like you said, I mean, you could have a less than stellar show.
Sure.
Whereas as you kind of know what you're getting to some extent with Laugh Floor, even though the jokes change, the situations change. You are still going to get that Magic Kingdom experience. Opposed to, again, the more intimate. But a big theater would not work for Turtle Talk. You're supposed to feel like you're in a little aquarium.
Yeah.
And it also probably couldn't fill a big theater. I mean, there's not.
I also think that it's kind of hindered by where it is in
that's what I'm saying.
Park. I think if it was a different experience, like at Magic Kingdom, I think they could zhuzh it up and put it in a location that could do better. But
they could. I still think they would have to make it small. It would be probably similar to like Ariel's Grotto and doing that. I don't think it would be still as big, and I don't think you'd want it as big. But it's in the seas, and
seas, man.
I love the seas. I love the seas. It's my favorite part of Epcot.
It's the best.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah.
Temperature wise, it's cool. Also,
just, it's got cool stuff in it. It's got cool things. You learn a lot. Chris loves education at his theme parks, so can't learn
but
much more.
What I don't
else,
love, but I appreciate, is that there's really no signs for the seas. You have the sign that says the seas with Finding Nemo and Friends.
Sure.
You have the queue to the ride. Have we talked about this before?
we have
on this podcast
off air. We've done it on the podcast. I'm pretty sure. I think it was in our Epcot Pavilion show. I think we sidetracked and talked about the seas for a bit. We've talked about it in the Finding Nemo versus Toy Story one, but like, you are very upset about just how unadvertised the aquarium.
Yeah, I mean,
is.
I'm not as much upset as it's just very confusing. I mean, that building is pretty big.
Yeah.
There's never that many people in it, but there's really no entrance besides the kind of the walkway to the left that doesn't even feel like you're going the right way. There's no sign
it definitely
on the building.
feels like you're going into the gift shop. It doesn't feel like you're going into
place
you can be.
There's no sign on the building. All the doors have the caution sign on them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even seem like it's a place you should be going into.
No, and they really want you to go take that
they
Nemo
want you to go
in.
on the Nemo ride into it,
really
which
do.
I get it. I mean, I guess that's part of the experience. You take the Nemo ride into this whole pavilion, but you also know how I feel about the Nemo ride. I
know how you feel about the Nemo ride. I think the Nemo ride is fine. That can be a debate we have at some point. We can do that ride up against some other sort of like Omni Mover ride. I think it's a fun entrance into the pavilion. I think it's fun. We didn't do it last time we were there. We just went through the secret side entrance. Totally cool. But like, I think it's fun. It's usually never a crazy wait, so you can just kind of hop on, go for a little journey.
Sometimes it can be more than 10 minutes, and then that's way too much.
I guess. It's
and then
a lot.
That thing stops a lot.
Sure.
Pauses.
The Omni Mover rides that just keep going kind of on the conveyor belt. If you have anyone who needs any extra time, it's going to slow everybody down.
Speaking of Omni Mover, and this is sidetracking here.
Yes.
Do you remember the Delta Dreamflight ride?
Delta Dreamflight ride, very vaguely. Why? What was that?
That was replaced by Buzz Lightyear.
Okay, it's definitely ringing a bell. I have images, but I don't have clear ones. If that makes sense.
Now I'm interested here.
This is a big tangent
because that was part of Tomorrowland.
Okay, which is close to Laugh Floor. Is that where we're going with this? And this is all tying in somehow?
Yeah, so it opened in 89 and closed in 98.
Okay.
But it's just where it's where Buzz Lightyear was.
I definitely have images of it from probably watching, Offhand Disney or some other like Disney YouTuber. I think my first time at the park was probably in like 2002. Probably in that we were in that weird lull where everything was really cheap because 9/11 unfortunately happened. Nobody wanted to fly.
Yeah.
Parents took advantage of that. I was terrified, but you know what? Got us a cheap Disney trip, baby.
You did get to Disney. So. You got to Disney.
It all works out, man. But yeah, I didn't go until the early 2000s. So sounds very familiar. Was there any? Were you just thinking about this today?
I was just thinking. You said Omni Mover, and then I was thinking about what used to be in Tomorrowland because we're talking about Tomorrowland now.
Yeah.
But I guess honestly, Delta Dreamflight fits into Tomorrowland just as much as Monsters Inc. does.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
how does Monsters Inc. fit into Tomorrowland?
This is what I wanted to bring up because my attraction fits so perfectly.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
And it fits really, really well too from the standpoint of like it's a screen-based thing, and you know how we feel about screen-based rides. Sometimes they're used well, sometimes they're not. Not this is a ride, but like attractions. The fact that it's a screen makes it look like it's glass. It looks good when you're in a building with other aquarium stuff. That plays really, really well. Going on over to Tomorrowland, I feel like we just put Monsters Laugh Floor in there because like Tomorrowland just needed something, man. Are the monsters from the future? They're not really from the future, right? Are the doors going back in time?
They're not from the future. That works? I don't know.
I'm confused.
It doesn't. I get that they had the Stitch ride, The Great Escape, because rockets. space.
Yes, yeah, even that is a little, but
just
like
space
yes, it
in
has a
general.
space
You know,
theme.
there's space.
Yeah.
There's not really future, but there's I guess, I mean, even a flying dog to some extent, right?
Sure.
It's something. But yeah, I guess Monsters Inc. doesn't really make any sense.
It does. It just kind of doesn't if you're following sort of what's set up. If they wanted to, like, if they were going to make some reference in Monsters University that they're from the year, 3000 or something, cool. Maybe that would work. And maybe they're going back in time every time they open up one of those doors.
Tomorrowland really needs to have some type of space theme. I don't know. I think everything in Tomorrowland that besides Monsters Inc. is
like
some
Buzz
space
Lightyear
element.
fits well, but like
Astro Orbiter, Space Mountain, and then you have
all that stuff works. The People Mover's weird, but it's for the time, I guess that totally made sense. It was supposed to be what was going to happen in the future to move people around cities, around towns, things like that. Makes sense to me. Monsters Laugh Floor, it kind of feels like the Monsters Inc. property. Somebody was like, "Hey, we need something to help out, Tomorrowland. What are we going to do? Oh, well, why don't we use Monsters Inc.?" And they're like, "That's not." And he's like, "No, it'll work. That'll work. That's fine. That's from the future. That's good enough." Like, did you even watch the film, pal? Like, did you?
It does.
Do you know what
feel
it is?
though like it fits to some extent for some reason.
It does.
It feels
I'm
like
not saying it doesn't, but it fits in the way that like a grandpa who like fell asleep watching the movie one time with their grandkids doesn't really know anything about it and is like, "Yeah, that would work." It's like, Grandpa.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I think that really is. If I'm thinking now, going back to all the rides there, I think is that maybe like the one that actually doesn't make sense in any. I mean, you really can't put that in any other land, and there's not.
If you're putting it in Magic Kingdom, I don't know where else you're going to put it. Really, you know what I mean? Like, so Tomorrowland works, I guess.
That's the only place it could be.
Yeah, I mean, unless you just kind of have more of a generic in between area, but like, where are you going to put it in? Frontierland, Fantasyland? Like, no, it's not going to work there. The obvious choice really would have been to put it in frickin' Hollywood Studios, dummies. Like, what are you doing? Any of those things would work just so much better in Hollywood Studios.
You know what?
I don't know why that didn't go there.
I think there's a lot that could go in Hollywood Studios that just doesn't make it there.
A lot, yeah. And like I get it. They're trying to help out Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland needs help. That's an entire conversation that we could have on, by itself. People have been having this discussion for a very long time. But the obvious answer there to me is Hollywood Studios. The Turtle Talk though fits perfectly in Epcot. There's not, I mean, obviously it's a Nemo ride, but even taking out the fact that there's a Nemo ride, if it was a Little Mermaid ride into an aquarium, that would still work. You know what I mean? Like it's perfect. It's the perfect location from that standpoint. But like we were talking about, if you wanted more people to go to it, probably pulling it out somewhere, putting it somewhere different is probably a better move. Just that whole thing in general, coming back to your point of the aquarium, like I didn't really know that there was an upper floor. Like I think I knew that there was an upper floor, but I never been up there. Anytime we would go there, I would hit the Nemo ride. We would kind of pop around. The only reason we were at the Turtle Talk was because we just kind of stumbled into this room with a bunch of benches that was dark, and we were like, "Oh, this is the Turtle Talk thing. Cool. Yeah, we'll stick around. Why not? That's fine."
More wild though is that it's not just an aquarium. This is a huge aquarium.
Yeah. I did not even for a minute realize how big it is.
One of the largest aquariums in the world. One of the largest indoor aquariums in the world. It's
we
6 million
really
gallons.
That much.
6 million gallons of water.
How much is like a I think of like what a popular equivalent would be, but like how do we conceptualize 6 million gallons? How many gallons is in one of the Great Lakes? You got any of that knowledge? Like how many
significantly more than the
how many
amount
gallons
of water
is in your pool in your backyard? Like an in-ground standard pool, like how many gallons is that? Because I can tell you right now, like you might get one of those manatees in that pool, but that's probably about it, and that ain't going to be a comfortable life for it. Definitely not. No way, champ.
So looking at like an average pool, this says around 22,000 gallons.
22,000 gallons. So like, okay, 22,000. I'm not doing that math out, but that's still pretty intense, huh? We're talking 6 million divided by
Yeah, so you're not even
22,000?
close to a percentage of what that
Crazy.
tank is. It's huge, and they have over 6,000 different sea creatures in there, and they have everything.
Wow.
They have sea turtles in there. They have sharks. They have sea turtles. They have sharks. They have fish.
You would think that they would have to kind of hit everything that you saw in Nemo. They would have to have at least one of each, right?
And not in that tank, but you really do get pretty much most of the Nemo creatures in that aquarium as a whole, and as far as the big aquarium. But in that one though, it's pretty cool, and they have dolphins in there. That's wild.
Yeah, dolphins.
They have dolphins, manatees. They have
the manatees were cool. We spent quite a bit of time watching the manatees last time we were there. I love the fact that they have and I don't know how much they go off, if they're just there for maintenance of the actual aquarium or if it's like a little bit of show in there, but like the scuba divers that are around just kind of popping around. Last time we were there, we just saw like a very fun interaction between like a scuba diver and a couple little kids like looking in, doing hand gestures and stuff at each other. It's so fun. It's
can
magical.
Also, there are some ways to actually dive in those tanks, I'm sure.
You want to do that? Can we do that? Can we make that happen?
I believe you can. I don't know exactly how you can, but there are some ways.
We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
We absolutely got to figure out how to do that and see if we can make that happen. We're going to do that. Me and you are going to go take a little dip with the sharks, huh?
Yeah. Have you read about how they even feed those sharks? They do it
I had no clue.
In the middle of the night. They like turn a light on in the middle and they just feed the sharks. That's why they don't eat all the fish in the tank.
Because they're well fed, so they're good
fed
to go.
At night. They're good to go.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't do much reading on the ins and outs of aquariums in general, but Disney aquariums definitely not my scene. But thank you for doing that.
That's a cool
aquarium. Thank you for taking the hit. Yeah, no, it's a very very cool aquarium. I'm excited to get back there to just experience more of it. Because we watched the manatees, watched a bit of the scuba divers, and that was kind of it.
There's also
a lot more in there.
I like merch shops.
You do.
I like merchandise. I like gift shops. I like stores. I don't love the store that they have there
at the aquarium.
Yeah,
I don't even know if we went into it when we were there. What is in that gift shop?
We did. You just have to
land. Basically, I just didn't even know
the entrance. Like you just walk through it, and there's really not. Okay. There's not like a lot in there. There's like a few plushes and a few shirts that I don't love.
Yeah, you would think that as big as an IP of like Nemo is alone, that there's a lot you could do, but like every aquarium has a pretty extensive gift shop.
I mean,
like,
there's a lot. Even like the Mission Space gift shop is a lot cooler.
It's more extensive. Wow, that's kind of sad, guys. Disney, get on your game.
You can get space ice cream at the Mission Space store. I love space ice cream.
You know what else you can get at the Mission Space store? You can't, but magic candles. Wouldn't it be cool if you could get magic candles there at the Mission Space store?
Have not seen them, but it would be cool.
Wouldn't that be neat? I don't actually think you can get those in any of the actual Disney parks, but I'm pretty sure you can snag them over at Universal. I think they got some.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Don't take my word on that. Magic Candle Company, very sorry if we're spewing lies here. But you know where you can get them? MagicCandleCompany.com. And you know how to save 15% off, Chris?
Is there a
code?
How to save? Is there a
code?
There's a
code. There's a code. You know what that code is, Chris?
Tell me the code. I don't know the code.
It's debate. DEBATE. I almost forgot how to spell it. I don't normally do that because we normally put it on screen. Christopher, why don't we learn just a little bit more about the Magic Candle Company?
Magic Candle Company themed fragrances allow you to capture the smell of your most cherished vacation memories. Set sail on a swashbuckling pirate adventure. Transport back to the tropical atmosphere of a beautiful South Pacific themed resort. Relive the excitement of a fun-filled day spent on your favorite dark water rides. Soar above a California orange grove. Embark on an exotic river cruise adventure. Recall that first bite of your favorite frozen pineapple treat. Escape to your favorite rocking chair overlooking a murmuring creek as you soak in the splendor of the great outdoors. Enjoy the scent that's beloved by foolish mortals and happy haunts alike. Or even recapture the nostalgic aroma of being a kid again, watching your favorite Saturday morning cartoons. All of this and more is just a click away. Visit magiccandlecompany.com and escape to your happy place today.
Receive 15% off. Discount code DEBATE.
What scent would we pair up with Monsters Inc.?
I don't think there is a Monsters. There could be. Yeah, they're coming out with new scents all the time. So
Wouldn't that be funny? They release one next week.
A laugh floor scent. Yeah,
laugh floor scent. Yeah, what does laugh floor smell like? It's got to be a little industrial. It's been a minute since I've been there. I'm gonna have to definitely go check that out again.
Yeah, I think I haven't been on in a minute. I think I last went on to laugh floor probably last year.
Okay.
So it has been a little bit of time for me.
Yeah. We could have hit up laugh floor when we were at Magic Kingdom. We should have done something like that. That would have been an easy in and out, but we had a great time.
It is a time commitment. You know, that's
yeah.
If you're gonna do it, you know, you're spending a day at Magic Kingdom in general, I think. You know?
Sure. Yeah. It was almost like we had a choice, either Monsters Laugh Floor or Carousel of Progress, and we chose Carousel of Progress. Once you're in,
I'm still taking Carousel of Progress all day. I think it's the best show.
That would be an interesting fight, man. Like, that would be an interesting fight. Putting these two up against each other, like, it's interesting because there is so much variation in Laugh Floor, zero variation in Carousel of Progress. You
Absolutely
know exactly
zero.
How the progression happens.
It's long, it's slow, but I think it's goofy, it's fun, and yeah. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm not doing it every weekend.
Sure, yeah.
I'm not doing it every time I go to Magic Kingdom, but
it's been very infrequent. Like, I have had big chunks of time in between going to Magic Kingdom. I've not, I frequent Hollywood Studios. Magic Kingdom, I got a lot more time in between. So it doesn't feel like a Magic Kingdom experience if I don't go on it.
That's
but
fair.
Like, if we go back in a couple months, like, I'm probably not, I'm not going to touch that for a little bit.
No, it's one of those things that it needs to be like a treat that you give yourself. Yeah. You hold off a little bit, you let yourself wait, you salivate a little bit, and then you get back into it, and you're right back into the Carousel of Progress. Where,
like, Monsters Laugh Floor, right? If we went last time and then you said, "Hey man, let's do it again," I think that would be fun. Let's go again. I go,
yeah,
okay,
I think it'd be fun because again, you're getting different audience participation.
There's a chance for variation.
There's gonna be variation. You're gonna have a different that guy.
Yes, that's why you go, man. Yeah. We should do a full day where we just try to be that guy. We're gonna keep going until they make us that guy.
It's. I don't think we're quite old enough yet to be that guy.
I think I can fake
every that guy I've seen has been usually fitting a mold.
Sure, like my father.
Yeah, they usually fit.
They're definitely trying to get a potential reaction. Like, dads can have a good time. We see that a lot. Dads are having fun, but like, if there's anybody at Disney who's going to potentially have a grumpy, not okay time, it's probably a dad, probably a middle-aged dad. Just wanting to survive the day, right?
Absolutely, and that's what makes it funny.
It's either gonna push him over the edge and he's gonna lose it, or it's gonna actually help him like have a good time. So 50-50,
50-50.
50-50. We're gonna wear shirts next time. We're gonna go and we're just gonna have shirts that just say that guy on it and see if we can make it happen.
I feel like I have seen some shirts before.
Yeah,
that have said that.
I was
maybe not quite that, but I've seen like I was that guy before.
Yeah, they do have. I think you get a sticker at the end of it where it says "I was that guy." Like, I think it references it.
You are right. You do. Do you get a sticker or any type of acknowledgement on Star Tours?
Star Tours? I don't think so, but I don't know. I've never been the Rebel Spy. The reason I brought up the shirt was because I actually saw somebody selling shirts that just say Rebel Spy on it, and it's like supposed to help you get that Rebel Spy thing, but I'm pretty sure it's a hard camera that's locked into a specific seat and it's just always that person. So don't really think.
Is that, I mean, have you read that that's what the case is? I'd be interested.
I'm like
because
90% sure. I do have some doubt, but I'm pretty sure that is the thing, that it's a hard cam on a specific spot.
They do have a lot of theaters, right?
In that seat. Oh yeah.
Do you know how many theaters they have?
I got no clue, but it's gotta be a ton. It's gotta be a lot.
That would make sense. I mean, there's a reason why there's usually no line for
Yeah, it's a quick.
Unless
I mean,
it's
there's
middle
a
of the
lot
day.
of reasons. It's a lot of reasons.
I'd be interested to see now with the updates. It's probably going to bring a few more people than it would have otherwise.
I was toying around with going for the April 5th. Like I was really considering for the opening of the new updates that they made with Ahsoka, Andor, and the Mandalorian. But I feel like that is the only time that you're ever going to see like decent sized lines at Star Tours is probably like right around that opening.
Yeah.
It's probably hyped it up a bit more, going from say like a 12-minute wait to, a 20-minute wait or something. It's probably given it a little juice, but like the standard people, I don't think are really care too much.
I really want to do it. I'm nervous about my weak stomach now, and now my head is going into it.
Yeah.
Every single ride I go, it's very frustrating now. I never had a single problem until Guardians. Never had a problem, and I have never been that close throwing up my hat. The hat was off, and I was accepting that this would probably be something that happened.
This is my fate. Yeah.
So that wasn't great.
It unleashed a beast in you, sir. Guardians really unleashed something inside of you.
I remember the specific moment. I was starting to feel a little bit, and then when we were like completely sideways and going over the hill sideways, it was messing me up. I was completely off, but that never happened before. It really hasn't happened again. I was in Key West or Key Largo last year on a boat, it was a fishing boat, and we were out there, and we were taking on some pretty big swells, and Katie, my sister, Wes, all booted.
Fine. Yeah. Oh,
I actually don't know if Katie did, but Rachel and Wes,
she wasn't feeling good. They weren't feeling good.
They definitely weren't. But they didn't have a great time on that, and I kind of felt it, but I was good. I was able to hold it down. But Guardians, no way. And I don't know if that was before or after, but since then I've been kind of like nervous. I'm gonna be like Ratatouille. I kind of felt a little bit off.
Yeah, makes sense with some glasses sort of.
It was the glasses, yeah.
3D. Yeah, it's for Star Tours for me, it's less like my stomach, and it's like I get like hot in that ride or something and like lightheaded, and I just like start feeling gross. Like I want to hurl, not because like my stomach has been jostled around, but like that experience just like messes with my brain so much. It's hot. There's no air conditioning. The glasses and everything. I just get like pale and like queasy. It's so weird.
I don't love glasses. Weird.
I can't do them, man. I can't do them anymore. I don't like it. Yeah, I'm
really glad that the new experiences are kind of shying away from glasses. You honestly could do Star Tours without glasses. I think it would be a very similar experience.
I think there's definitely ways to do that. They have a lot of 3D TV, like dome screen stuff now is really popular.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, Smuggler's Run, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Smuggler's Run, even in the sequence of Rise of the Resistance, where you do the drop deal and stuff, you got the same sort of dome screen going on.
You don't need to have any type of I don't love, because the glasses also never look quite right.
No,
it never does. You always have to kind of like look a little bit like at an angle. The corners of your eyes are always like, you can tell.
Yeah,
it never looks perfect. The only time like I really like the glasses, and even then I still have trouble with it sometimes, is Flight of Passage.
Okay. Yeah. I've yet to go on it, so I got to experience that next time we're down.
Well, that's the difference. I mean, because the screen is so big, no matter where you're looking with your eyes, you're seeing something, and it works a little bit better. So.
Interesting. Yeah. There's systems and there's ways I think they could improve something like Star Tours. I think they definitely could. Bringing it back to our discussion here, the thing that I really like about these experiences is
you
that
don't get sick.
They don't. Yeah,
you don't get sick
on these. I mean, granted, I don't know. Depending on your tolerance for dad humor, you might get a little queasy on the laugh floor.
Very nice.
Not saying that there ain't dad jokes. I mean, there's literal dad jokes happening.
You don't need glasses, right?
You don't need glasses.
You're
And,
getting
like,
a good experience
it
without
looks
having
fine.
to. Yeah.
Does it look 3D? No, but not 3D. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you get that impression where, like, Turtle Talk gives you this impression of, like, that could be glass, that could be real behind there. I'm not getting as much depth as I would, like, in another ride or something that does more multi-layered screens and stuff, but, like, looks pretty good.
No, you're definitely
Monsters
not.
Inc. feels okay. Like, that feels fairly
You're getting
okay.
3D animation, and you're accepting it for what it is.
I think it would be cool if they could do some updates to give it a little more depth, do a multi-layered screen sort of a thing. But you know, it's not it's the last thing you really need to do. Like, that's totally fine. I like that they didn't try to do anything too fancy with it. They are kind of just like simpler experiences. They are what they are. That's what makes them great. The only 3D that I really like at the parks is probably Muppet 3D, Muppet Vision. Even that's a little fuzzy here or there, but like that older 3D for whatever reason just works better.
You are a Muppet fiend.
I'm a Muppet fiend,
You're a
man.
Muppet fiend. Yeah,
Hey,
I don't know.
Name me better 3D at the Disney parks. Muppet Vision,
Flight
man.
of Passage.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Okay, next fight we're doing Flight of Passage,
Muppet Vision.
Muppet Vision.
Head to head showdown.
Hey, you know, I think the people might want it. I'm trying to think of another experience. I don't even know what other experiences there are. Like I was saying, like I think the closest things to Turtle Talk and Laugh Floor in general are probably Muppet Vision. I don't know if there's any other shows that are quite like this. I mean, obviously the digital puppet thing and kind of the digital to reality thing.
Yeah, it definitely is not. Yeah, you're definitely right there. It definitely is not what you're.
No. I don't even think there's any other show that's really kind of on the same league as this, where it's I don't even know how to describe it. Like maybe that sort of like a Spider-Man thing that goes on, the Spider-Man stunt show where he's kind of like interacting with the crowd that's over in California Adventure. But like everything else feels very much like if you're going to watch like a play or a musical or something that's like being a stage production.
Yeah, I mean, right. Beauty and the Beast. The show there, you have the Mickey's PhilharMagic.
Yeah.
It's not it's not the same. It's the interactive nature that makes it. And I don't really see these going anywhere. I think that's I think another point here
for a bit. Yeah.
It's 20 years of that's a long time for a ride. And it's a long time for that to hold up as well as it does.
Yeah. Turtle Talk ain't going anywhere. That's for sure. Right.
No.
Like I think as long as that pavilion's there, as long as that ride is there, Turtle Talk is staying. Not that I'm saying that the monster's quality is any less. That's not my argument here. But like the only thing that Monsters Laugh Floor has is just like Tomorrowland needs work. So if they decide that they want to utilize that for something else, like I think most people would be like, okay, cool. Maybe they move the experience somewhere else. That would kind of make sense. It's probably an easy one to sort of pick up and recreate somewhere else, but maybe it's time for something new. But I do hope they continue to use this style of
they could. I mean,
experience.
They definitely have been able to. They added Tron to Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
All right. So they're working on it. They're working on it. It's just it does feel.
Yeah.
And other people might disagree there, but when you're walking in Tomorrowland, it doesn't really feel like you're anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it.
I kind of know what you mean. It's like it's a very you know what it kind of reminds me of is the animation courtyard in Hollywood Studios. It oddly reminds me of this place that's like there's stuff here, but also there's like it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of stuff here.
There's really not a lot there,
and then like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it feels off. It feels like it's missing something.
Especially if the people mover ain't working. I don't think there's much going on.
And there's a lot of open space too.
Yeah,
especially once you get around Astro Orbiter and all that area, it's and everything is white, but it doesn't feel futuristic.
I believe it's literally like referred to as retro futurism. So it's like an older look at what the future would be.
But it doesn't. It feels like everything is just not.
It kind of feels like it almost
unfinished.
It feels yeah, or it feels like a weird like. It feels like a temporary space at Epcot. That's what I feel like when we were like walking through
That's
some of
fair.
those shops last time. It feels like it's a space at Epcot that doesn't know what it wants to be. Like it's not meant to be
That is
here for
fair.
a long time. With the Epcot being, well, is it still all walls right now, or have all the walls been removed? The walls aren't all removed yet.
There
right?
is one building that is
Yes,
still has to open, but
Yeah.
pretty much the walls are down.
are almost
pretty
all
much,
down. It feels
to
like
the-
that Tomorrowland belongs in a walled up Epcot. Like, just hang with us for a little bit. We're gonna get there. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could be trashing someone's absolute favorite part, but I
Sorry.
don't believe it. I don't believe
I think a lot of people are in agreement, even if you're a big Tomorrowland person, that it needs
it.
some direction. It needs something else, whether that is just like going full board into this retro futurism thing and just like hammering on it. Cool. But like, let's do something. Again, Laugh Floor is good, but does it really belong in Tomorrowland? No, I don't really think so. I think there's something else we could do with that.
Not quite.
And like this, I could say this about almost any part of the park, but like I'm dying for some original like IP, some like, Pirates of the Caribbean sort of haunted mansion. Like this is very unique to this park. This is very unique to this.
And I
want
think
an experience
they've tried
that's
to
an
do
original
that
story.
quite a bit. And I mean, obviously all these rides are very old, so they've been able to build off them. But there is not a lot of, besides Disney princesses, there's not a lot of other characters that they insert into Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Not a lot of other things that they're putting there that aren't Magic Kingdom or princess-esque, right?
Sure.
It's surprising that something like Tron is there.
Yeah.
In a way. It doesn't feel, that feels Epcot, and not just because it's like future, but I guess it could feel Tomorrowland. I don't know. I gotta sit on it a little bit.
Tomorrowland has an element of Epcot in it. Epcot is kind of like Tomorrowland in a way. Like it has sort of a similar vibe.
No, that's a really good point, because it kind of is, right?
Yeah, in some ways.
It's the
I know
community
that
of
people will
tomorrow.
fight us on that,
It's the
Yeah,
the experimental
go.
prototype community tomorrow.
It's just Tomorrowland expanded. It's almost like they should have got rid of Tomorrowland, built Epcot, and then used Tomorrowland space for something else. Tomorrowland is what it is. It's there. Give me an original IP or something at Tomorrowland. Create some cool new something, and like maybe that might jazz it up for me a bit. I don't know. I don't know how to save Tomorrowland. There's a lot of other people who've kind of had that conversation before. And it's not ultimately what we're fighting here today. I want to take us back to the turtles real quick.
We'll get back to the turtle.
Let's get back to the turtles, because I do have a couple more points before we wrap up. We've talked about a bunch of them, but like one of the things that I really think is so smart is and this sort of ties into the fact that Turtle Talk is a very unique experience almost every time you go. Laugh Floor, a little not. It is. The jokes are a little bit different. Not saying that there isn't structure and things that are built into Turtle Talk. The when we meet Dory and everybody else, like those are all pre-recorded things. Those are all meant to happen. There's a little bit of a structure and flow, but it really is like there's two parts that I love about Turtle Talk, and it's the fact that like the kids interacting with Crush totally throw them for a loop all the time. And the things that cast member has to come up with, genius. They're so funny. Like one of the, and I know that this is kind of a thing that people do a lot. It's probably a trope, but hearing it from a little kid, maybe he was coached, maybe he wasn't. But when Crush asked him what his favorite food was, he responded with turtle soup. And I know that that's a thing that happens now. A lot of adults do it, but like the fact it seemed like it came from a kid and it was completely like legit, so funny. Sure, they hear
That's
it all
funny,
the time,
yeah.
but
That's
their
funny.
interactions with that, and there was a bunch of other ones that like people just answered really weirdly, and then like Crush has to do something with that.
That
They
does
have to improv.
Yes, it definitely. I get it. That does happen though at Laugh Floor. They'll
Do
have
they interact with crowd members at
Oh yeah,
Laugh Floor?
Oh yeah. They'll
Okay.
they'll bring the microphone around, and then they'll also have people like call out certain things. So they'll have the audience call out
Okay.
things, and then they pick up some things that are like, that's what I was saying earlier. They'll pick up some things that are like off base, and they react to those things, which make it very funny.
Mhm. Okay. Fair enough.
So there's that element to some extent. I know.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of Turtle Talk is very kind of off the cuff stuff, But
Yes.
I think there is still a lot of that in Laugh Floor. There's just a
Mhm.
little bit more structure to
The
show in
overall
general.
experience. And yeah, I mean, it that does make sense. I think you would be remiss if you did a comedy show and you didn't do any crowd work. So totally makes sense. Um, the I think it's really nice. Like Turtle Talk does such a good job of like putting the kids up front and center and kind of separating them from everyone, really focusing on them, which I think is like the fun part. When you get a group of kids like chuckling and laughing at dumb things, it really like helps the overall mood of the crowd and how they're going to react. Back to our when it hits, when it misses, it misses. But even more fun than that is like the amount of jokes that Crush specifically throws over the kids' heads to land just for the adults is hysterical. I watched a bunch
That's
of Laugh
funny.
Floor, so maybe they like did some of this like secret adult humor, but there is so much secret adult humor put into Turtle Talk.
Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable.
I can't speak on that. I haven't seen enough of that too, but
Fair.
I believe it, and I believe that Laugh Floor is probably going to be a little bit more on the family friendly side, so they're not going to test the waters there.
It's a little more rounded out. It's a little more just family
Yeah.
friendly in that, where it kind of comes back to the intimate experience that you get to have at Turtle Talk, which kind of allows for a little more playful nature like that.
Yeah, I mean
cool.
they work the crowd right.
They do. They work that crowd right.
They do.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably more challenging to work a smaller crowd. I actually don't know. I've never done comedy before, clearly, with all my charisma, but I don't know how much goes into that or what is harder.
I'll tell you that interacting with smaller crowds is more difficult than interacting with bigger crowds. Bigger crowds give you a lot more oomph. Smaller crowds, you feel every little everything. So if you got 3 people in the audience out of 10 that are not having a good time, like it hurts a lot more than having half of a crowd not enjoying your work and the other half loving it at a big crowd. So
yeah, I can imagine that. I can also imagine that, like, at some degree, once the crowd hits a certain amount of people, it doesn't even matter after that, right?
more or less.
I feel like talking to 500 people would be the same as talking to 5,000 people.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much the experience. I mean, I'm sure there's, there are differences. People who perform on that level will probably tell you the difference, but there is like when you're talking to when you're talking to more than a small room full of people, it's just kind of a mass. It's just kind of a big thing. If you can generally hit a good, funny-ish joke, you'll get a laugh. You'll get a room full of laughter a little bit. Kind of helps other people laugh along, but it is also that like there's 7 people in this room and half of them don't laugh. The other half feel unconscious, like feel subconscious, or they feel self-conscious about laughing, So it's very weird. Like there's a very weird dynamic that goes on with people. The nice part about Crush's job, though, all these guys' job, they bomb. They're like in a back room or something. I don't know actually where they're set up to like do these performances, but nobody's got to actually see them. That probably feels great. That would be so cool to just be able to like speak to a crowd full of people, to be able to like rip jokes, and then like I'm not the one getting laughed at and pointed at. If I walk out of this room right now, nobody's gonna say I sucked. Like that'd be great.
Yeah, it. I wonder what their metrics are, though. I mean, I wonder how they're gauged by
how
like
they're viewing
their bosses, though. I don't know.
I'm sure
it's a very interesting job there because you are like a character, but you're also an entertainer.
Yeah. It's a weird. You're operating a digital puppet. It's very weird. It's very strange.
And I don't know what their hours are, but that's a hard job. It's nonstop. Laugh Floor is nonstop.
I would be interested to see how all that works, how often they're switching in and out, because you could, in theory, just kind of swap them out whenever. Like it doesn't matter. It could be every other performance could be somebody different.
The background information into this.
I also really want to know what their setup looks like. I want to know how they're operating these things. Is it a big like touchscreen with a bunch of different motions that
you're asking to get behind the magic? You're asking to get behind the magic. I don't know if you're allowed to get behind the magic. I don't know if
is
you're
it like an
Xbox
Xbox controller that they're just like moving those monsters around the stage? You hit the A button, it does something. Like I want to know, man. I want to know this stuff.
I don't know if their movements are scripted.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
Just the voices, the mouth movement is.
the turtle definitely is moving. They have control over the turtle, because the turtle will do things like he'll when the turtle soup line happens, he gets scared and he can trigger Crush to like go behind a rock and then like peek out from the rock. And he does that in a bunch of different scenarios. Like, it's not just timed and cued. He'll kind of move around a little bit. So they have some control over him. Maybe the monsters are just on like a cycle going from place to place on stage, but I feel like they have some control over that. I want to know. I want to know the magic, dude.
We need to get behind the magic now.
I got to know the magic.
You're intriguing me now, and we need to figure it out. So if someone does know that, please let us know.
Please let us know
all of the background information on these two rides, because we're interested.
We want to know how these digital puppets are operated, how they worked. I'm sure that there's a patent of some sort out there that we all have to dig up. But like Chris said, if you know how these things operate, please let us know. You can message us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube at Diz or That Pod, DIS, Diz or That Pod. Chris, do you have anything else to say to the people? You got any other arguments that we can fight on this, or did we think we pretty much did our duty today?
I think we did our duty. I think we made Laugh Floor proud. I think we made Turtle Talk proud today.
I think Turtle Talk definitely won. I think so.
You know what? I don't know. I think I might. You know what? This actually is going to be a tough one. I think Laugh Floor is still better. However, I think that, and this is what you get. You this is how you're going to win a few of the other ones too. You're going to get the buzz. You're going to get the buzz. I think the buzz. Non-Disney people, same thing, have more exposure to Turtle Talk, the jokes in Turtle Talk. I don't know, if I've even seen a single clip on Instagram or TikTok of Laugh Floor. And that's okay. Man. That's okay. It's a different experience. And sure.
It'll be interesting to see the polls. It's going to be interesting to see the polls.
It will be.
Yeah.
It will be.
If you want to vote in those polls, again, make sure to go to our Instagram, Diz or That Pod. You can check us out on TikTok as well. If you want to watch the video versions of this podcast, make sure to go to YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube and you prefer to listen to us in podcast form, we're available on just about every platform where you can listen to your podcast. Make sure to go leave us a review on your preferred method of listening to podcasts. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it may be. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment on this video. And make sure to go over, follow those social medias, participate in that poll. Make sure to leave comments, like everything. We want to engage with you. We're trying to grow our community over on Instagram. Once again, thank you all for joining us here. Turtle Talk versus Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. We've had a great time. Thank you guys for joining us here at the Happiest Debate on Earth.
I like it.
Oh, and thanks to our sponsor, the Magic Candle Company. 15% off, guys.
15%
Debate. Put in that code. 15% off helps us out too. Thanks, guys.
This podcast was brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process.